I want to welcome you today to this webinar sponsored by the BYU Management Society. We're so pleased to have Jennifer Anderson here to present. I'm Rixa Oman. I'm Executive Director of the Society, and I'll be the moderator. We're glad to have you on. We're very pleased to have Jennifer present on relaunching your professional career, what you should know before going back to work. We discovered as we sent out the notices for this that it's a very timely topic and a lot of people are very interested, and we appreciate your interest in this and hope we're able to answer some of the questions and concerns that you have. A couple of housekeeping items. The audio portion of the presentation can be heard through the speakers on your computer, or you can call in, and the directions should be there on your control panel. You'll all be muted except for the presenter so that you can hear us, but we won't hear you, and this gives us a clear presentation for everyone. Many of you asked questions on the survey when you registered, and Jennifer and I have reviewed these, and they were very helpful in focusing the presentation. We're grateful for your concerns and questions. We can't address each one individually, but your thoughts have certainly helped Jennifer to direct the discussion today. During the presentation, go ahead and put your comments or questions in the chat or the questions box, and we'll review those and leave some time at the end of the presentation to answer some of those. Let me introduce to you a good friend of mine, Jennifer Anderson. Jennifer has nearly 20 years as a career strategist with a goal to build stronger teams one career at a time. She offers trainings to companies covering things like mentoring in the workplace, career management, personal branding, and more. She consults with national and international companies to improve careers for employees, which improves team morale and helps companies retain their top talent. She's a sought-after speaker about career management and has addressed a number of groups around the country, such as Public Relations Society of America, American Women's Society of CPAs, and so forth. She's a regular contributor to media appearances on KSL News, Matt Townsend Show, podcasts, and Deseret News. She's been published in Forbes and ranked as a top 40 to follow on Twitter. Her Twitter account is Career Coach Jen. For more information and to get in touch with her, you can find her at careercoachjen.com. Personally, I've known her for a number of years because of her involvement in the Salt Lake chapter of the BYU Management Society. She's been a chapter president and is now the board member over marketing. She also serves on the Global Steering Committee of the BYU Management Society. And now, let me turn, take me just a minute here, let me turn the time over to Jennifer.
Well, thank you, Rixa. I appreciate it. Okay, folks. I am going to go ahead and show my screen. All right, so Rixa, on your end, can you see the...
Yes, it's great.
Okay, wonderful. Just want to make sure you can see the PowerPoint. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Rixa, and it's so great to catch up with all of us wonderful ladies from many corners of the world, and for those who will be joining us later watching the recording. It's my honor to talk with you about this sensitive time. Relaunching your professional career when you're getting ready to go back to work is a big thing, and I appreciate you setting aside time so that I can help you think about some things that you want to do before you go back to work. And I do want you to know that at the end of this, we will have an opportunity for some Q&A. So in the chat area, you can type your questions. I've reviewed, as Rixa said, the questions that you provided in advance and have tried to incorporate that where I can into this presentation. Ladies, you have a lot of really great questions, and I want you to know that while I'm here to help you with this, this is one piece of the puzzle, and I hope that if your questions don't get answered here today, you can certainly reach out to me later. As Rixa said, you can find me on my website, careercoachjen.com. You can get in touch that way, and look for other resources in your life as well. This is a really important time for you, and so let's get into this and explore this. So the first thing I want to talk about, let me make sure that I've got my screen moving here. So let's talk about, what is the modern stay-at-home mom? What does she look like? And as you can see here from this picture, we've got this lovely mom here with her 3 kids, and they're baking cookies and everything just looks great. Now, I don't know about you, but this is not what my house looks like when it comes to, you know, being in the home. This is more what it looks like. Now, that granted, that's not me, but I love this picture because to me, that is more of what it looks like being a stay-at-home mom. Not so much that, you know, everything's perfect. You notice there's not even a crumb on the counter, right? It's totally pristine. And, you know, it's more like this. And there's just stuff strewn all over the place. And, you know, you got mom there wrangling kids, and not to mention anything else that she's doing on her computer and other side work that she might be doing, or maybe participating in her local church activities or whatever it is. So this is more of what the modern stay-at-home mom looks like. I was doing some research to find out, you know, what is the equivalent compensation of a stay-at-home mom. And if you take all the little pieces and parts that you do, everything from being a taxi driver to being a nurse to being the chief executive officer of your home, etc., you take all the stuff that you do in a given year, and you break it down on an average, it's like over $140,000 a year. So just keep that in mind, ladies, that when you're wondering what your salary is worth and you're looking at going and applying for a job, that doesn't mean that you should say, hey, career coach Jen told me that I should apply for a job and make $140,000. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying if you take all the pieces and parts of what you do and you break it down, it's worth quite a bit. And so if you're ever wondering what your value is beyond being a daughter of God, you know, your monetary value for those of you that are stay-at-home moms, you're well over $100,000 a year. So we're making quite the contribution. So keep that in mind. And so I want to talk about, you know, again, you know, what are some things that you should know before going back to work. And so I'm going to talk to you today about what I'm going to give a few bullet points here just to tell you what I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to delve into each of these. So first of all, you want to know what you want to do. You need to make time. Networking in person, you want to connect online, and then be realistic with your expectations. So let's talk about, first of all, about knowing what you want to do. So knowing what you want to do, in my mind, is not so much just simply what is the job description that you want to apply for. It's also what you want to be known for. So this is a very common thing that we hear about in the marketplace these days about what is a personal, you know, what is your personal brand. I'm hoping that that's not a brand new concept for those of you that are watching this webinar, because personal brand, the idea behind it is that you want to know really what is the how and the why behind what you do. So let me explain this just for a little bit more here. So let's just say, for example, if all of you on this webinar were just doing a whole variety of different jobs, but let's say I enrolled all of you in college tomorrow to become a nurse, and in 4 years from now you pop out of school and you have a bachelor's in nursing. So that's the what you do, okay? Now, but the how and the why about how you going to be a nurse is going to look different, because some of you may decide to become a pediatric nurse. Maybe some of you are going to do oncology and work with patients who are in cancer situations, or maybe you're somebody who's dealing with orthopedic and, you know, dealing with people who've had hip replacements or something. So how you're going to go about being a nurse will look different. Also, your personalities will be different, and how you go about interacting with people, etc. And so your how is going to show up. And then the other part that's different for each of you is your why. So for me, for example, if I was to go into nursing, I know right now that there's no way I could go into pediatrics, because it just breaks my heart anytime I go to like primary children's hospital, or if there's a little boy in my neighborhood who's going through childhood leukemia and all those things. It's hard for me. I have a really hard time just keeping a stiff upper lip and doing what needs to happen to help those little kiddos get through what they need to get through. So I know for me, I know I wouldn't become a pediatric nurse, but you know, my deeper why of nursing, you know, so it would still show up no matter what the skill is, no matter what the job is that you're doing, your brand is still going to show up. And for me, one thing that I'm really known for and that I pride myself on being as an activator I'm very much energizing. I very much am the type of person that when I get in to circumstances, I bring energy and light and get people moving and get things happening. And that shows up in all different areas of my life. So that's my brand. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'm always constantly energizing. And I've actually thought, you know, how interesting would it be to get to the end of my life and be at my funeral and they're in a spirit form floating up above and observing what is it that people are talking about me, and you know, how have I shown up in their life. And if those people were to say, you know, Jennifer was energizing and she really got me going and got me taking action, I'm going to be up there in the sky like going, woohoo, this is awesome, you know, people got it, and I did what I wanted to do, which was make an impact by bringing energy to the circumstances for all different circumstances in my life. And so that's my why. That's my deeper why. Again, you know, I could be a nurse, you know, maybe I'm an emergency room nurse or something, so my skill set would be different from my HR consulting, but at the end of the day, I would still be that energizing, activating type person in the form of a nurse. So again, for yourself, when you're thinking about what you're doing for work and whatnot, it's not just about a skill set. You want to think about what is your brand, how is it that you want to show up, and ladies, you need to think about that, especially just being in the house and how you're interacting with your family members of all different types. You know, what is it that you want to be known for? And for any of you who know me, follow my blog or anything else, you know, I've talked about being a bonus mom. So I had the opportunity to become a stepmom just a couple of years ago for the first time having kids in my life, and what a huge difference it made to me to have kids in my life. And I've always had a huge amount of respect for all the working moms and the stay-at-home moms in my life, but it's just skyrocketed as far as the amount of respect that I have. And so the reason why I bring that up is because I think that we need to recognize the value that we have as a mom, and what that means to our children and to our significant other and to other family members and what we're doing. And so you want to think about that. How are you interacting with them? And when you get to the end of your life, you may or may not even go back to work. Through all of this process of evaluating, relaunching your career, you may opt to just stay home, or maybe you start a business, or maybe you're working from home part-time or whatever, and you're really not getting out of the house, so to speak. But you need to recognize, how is it that you want to be perceived? That's a huge piece about your career development, and making sure that you are really honoring how it is that you want to show up. One thing that I think is important in looking at that is, again, recognizing, you know, your divine connection to God and who you are and the guidance that He gives you, and tapping into prayer and tapping into the scriptures, really listening to what your heart is telling you when you're listening to general conference talks. All that stuff is going to help you to know who it is that you want to be. Really, how do you want to show up? And that's going to help you understand more of what you want your personal brand to be. So I think all of that is really, really critical, and it's a super important piece of this career development, and super important when you're looking at relaunching your professional career. So keep your personal brand in mind. And at the end of the day, your personal brand is what's your mark on the world. And that's why I have this image here of a brand with a question mark. You know, what's that permanent mark that you want to put on the world with your time and effort? And so don't get so, you know, nervous about, oh, you know, what's the exact job title I should be going for. Don't stress about that. Instead, focus on how it is you want to show up, and the job title, all those things will come together for sure. Okay, so now that we have a good idea about you need to have your personal brand as your foundation, I want to talk about these. And again, I'm going to go, let me just back up for a second. Again, talk to you about making time, networking in person, connecting online, and being realistic with expectations. So let me go ahead and talk about time. So isn't it funny, ladies, how it always comes down to time? Oh my gosh. I seriously want to become a mechanical engineer just so I can develop a time machine, right? How awesome would that be? So because we only have 24 hours a day, and because our bodies need rest and recuperation, because we have so many demands on our time as far as our our husbands needing us, or our family members needing us, or kids, maybe you have an ailing parent, whatever. My mom just had 2 knee surgeries, knee replacement surgeries this year. That was a big time commitment that I needed to help her out with stuff. And, and I want to do that. So how do I make time for that? What do I do so I can still take care of my my 2-year-old and my other bonus kids, and my husband, and run my business and take care of my customers, and oh, by the way, I need to rest, and oh, by the way, I probably should eat healthy, and oh, I should probably exercise, take some downtime and go play with friends, there's all those things. So it's amazing how often it comes down to time. And so I think it's really important for you to recognize when you're looking at relaunching a professional career is if you don't make time to incorporate some of these things I'm going to talk to you about, then it's never going to happen, ladies. You have to be honest with yourself. If you don't set aside time to really focus on what you're going to do to relaunch your career, then it's not going to happen, or it's going to totally happen without any kind of plan or without any kind of focus. And so I encourage you, get really real about your time. Now here's the deal I'm going to share with you. Last night I was up until 12:30 in the morning working on a project. I've got this new product that's coming out, and there was some big pieces of stuff I needed to get over to the designer who's helping me to create this thing. And I just could not get it done during the day. There were too many other things going on. So I stayed up, and my husband had gone to bed 2.5 hours earlier, and I knew he was sleeping in the other room, and it sounded so awesome just to go and get in bed and go to sleep, and the kids are asleep and whatever else. And I just thought, you know what, this is so important. I've got to do this. And so I just stayed up and plugged away. By the way, when you're working late at night like that, you have very limited interruptions, so it's actually kind of a fabulous productive time for me anyhow. And so so I did that. And when it comes to how I manage my time, I also get up at 5 o'clock in the morning because my 2-year-old typically gets up around 7, and I want to have a couple of hours in the morning so I can take care of myself. It's really important for me personally to have some prayer and scripture time. That meditative time is really important before I start the rest of my day. And it's also really important for me to listen to my affirmations and do yoga. I really like to have that time just to be really grounded in my body and spiritually connect with God. And so for me, if I don't get that time in, then the rest of the day just doesn't go as smooth. It doesn't matter if it's a day where I'm home not doing any work at all and I'm just hanging out with my people, or if it's a day where I've got back-to-back meetings. If I haven't first started out with that little bit of time for me and filling my cup, then I don't have anything left to give to anybody else. And so I encourage you to, to look at that and to make time. And I had to get really, really intentional about that. And I used to like to sleep until pretty much the 2-year-old will wake up. Her bedroom's across the hall from my bedroom, and I would just sleep until I'd hear her start calling out mom, and then that's when I would get up. And I realized I don't have enough time in the day to take care of me as well. So I started getting up at 5 a.m. So ladies, again, I went to bed at 12:30, and then I turned around and woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that was 4.5 hours of sleep. But sometimes you got to do it. You got to make that time. And there are other times where I don't get up at 5 a.m. if I've been up really late. And so, but for me, this is how my day needed to go, and I knew that that's what it was. So I really recommend that you look at how are you going to set aside that time so that you have that quiet time to really think about what it is you want to do with your career, or if you're taking any kind of classes, whatever it is, you need to find that quiet time and set it aside and make sure that people know. And my husband, he's very aware of the fact that I get up at 5. He gets up at about 5:30. And so, but I go into my office and I close the door, and he knows that's my alone time. He does not come in and bother me until he's ready to leave for work. And we have a, chat for a couple of minutes and a hug and a prayer, and he's out the door, and then I'm back to what I need to do. But he's, because I've shared with him the importance of it and what it does for me, and he also sees a difference in how I'm a better mom and a better wife. He's totally game to understand that I may not come to bed with him at night sometimes, and or I might be getting up really, really early, and he gets it. He understands, but it's also because I'm being productive with that time. I am not putzing around on Facebook all night or screwing around on, Instagram or whatever all morning. I don't have time for that. you're looking at relaunching your career, you need to have that time set aside. Otherwise, it is not going to happen. So make sure you look at and be realistic, and you may have to adjust. And for me, it kind of took a while to figure out what was really going to be my best time. But that early morning is when before I have the burdens of the day in my mind, it's a good, clear thinking time. So for me, it works. But for you, find out what it is and make sure you stay focused on that. So make sure you include your time. So let's talk about how you're networking. So, you know, for yourself, as you're taking notes and you're reviewing thoughts from this webinar, think about for yourself, how are you currently networking? You know, what are you doing? So, you know, for a lot of moms, you've got connections with kids, moms, you know, the neighbor moms, maybe neighbors from church, maybe there's some other civic things that you're doing in the community. Maybe you're involved in a running group because you like to go run marathons or, you know, whatever. So there's a lot of different ways that you're networking and connecting with people. And I like to point that out because often people will tell me, oh, I'm not networking. You know, I'm saying stay-at-home moms are saying, oh, I'm not networking. And that's not true. But the reason why they're saying that they're not networking is because they feel like they're not at a trade show, right? So perhaps you're not at a conference, or you're not attending networking events that are for your maybe for, you know, like let's say if you have a background in accounting or something and you're not going to the local CPA networking thing. Ladies, while yes, of course, that is professional networking, do not discount the fact that you are already doing some other great networking. And so I want to talk about what you can do to improve your networking. And but don't discount the fact, you know, that what you're doing, okay? So just keep that in mind. And so let's talk about what is effective networking. So before you go to a networking event, or you're going to be involved in something like maybe it's the PTA, or maybe it's you know, being involved in something in the community. I don't know. I mean, there's so many different ways that we get involved. So first of all, you want to know why you want to go. So when you think about the fact that we only have hours a day, right, until I build that time machine. And by the way, when I build it, you're super welcome. But until then, you only have 24 hours a day. So you need to figure out, how do you want to spend that time? What is going to be really the best use of your time? And why is it that you want to go to a networking event? So I have friends of mine who get together about one Friday a month in our neighborhood. They get together and they have a ladies' lunch, and they like to do it on Friday before their kids get out of school, particularly for those moms that have kids in elementary school, because they have early out on Friday. And so they'll get together and they'll go hang out. And for me personally, I'll go to that, but maybe only about once or twice a year, because I also like to make sure that I have the opportunity to make sure that I'm connecting with people, and to make sure that I do that better if I'm in a one-on-one situation where I can really talk to people individually and get to know them. Because I find for myself, my networking is not as effective if I'm constantly in group situations. I do a lot better if it's one-on-one, and I can really delve in and have those conversations with people. So while sure, it'd be fun to go and spend time with other stay-at-home moms and to go out to lunch and get to know them and learn more about each other, and then hopefully over time you might be able to leverage their connections to help you with a job interview or an introduction. I truly find though that it becomes more effective if you're having those one-on-one conversations. Keep that in mind. It's really important that you do that. So you want to know for yourself, why do you want to go? And then also you want to make sure that you're consistently attending. So if you're getting involved in anything in the community, consistently go. You want to make sure that don't just go to something just one time just for the sake of going, but you want to make sure that you find something you can be involved in and consistently attend. As you are consistently being there, it also shows people your brand, and it shows people how you are showing up. And that continuity of experience with you is going to make a big difference. You want to make sure you use your time wisely. I'm really big on making sure that if I go to a networking event, that I want to use my time wisely while I'm there. So I think about ahead of time, who is it that I want to connect with? So I like to do research on, if there's like a guest speaker or something, I like to do research on them. Or if there's no guest speaker, but it's just a group of people getting together, maybe the organizer, you can do some research about them. And you can do research simply by looking them up on Instagram and Facebook. People put a lot of good information out there about themselves. themselves. And so, but you want to look at that or look at who are those people so that when you're there, you can be really purposeful. Here's a little tip for you. One thing I love to do when I go out to networking events is I put it on my calendar, and a lot of people can use Google Calendar on your smartphone. But then I also put a little note for myself on the calendar to say, okay, if I had an opportunity to talk to the guest speaker, what would be the one thing I would want to ask them? And the reason why I do this is because one time I was coming into a conference, and it was like an afternoon networking thing, and one of the keynote speakers actually happened to be in the elevator with me alone while we were riding an elevator to the conference. And in that moment, I recognized who they were because they looked like their picture. But I realized that I didn't really have a good, juicy question to ask them in that moment. And I felt such a dud. I totally felt like I just squandered that opportunity that landed in my lap, where I got to be alone with that speaker in the elevator. So for you, think about that, right? Think about, okay, if I could be alone with that person, what would be one thing I would want to ask them about? And, because you don't want to be talking about something insignificant like the weather or something in the news, like whatever, who really has time for that, right? Instead, how do you want to engage with them? But you want to think about that also as you're going to networking events and interacting with different people. What are the things that you really want to be talking about? And so think about that ahead of time and use your time wisely. And when you go to different networking events and participating in different things in community, go with a service mentality. Find out how can you help. I like to reach out to the organizer in advance and say, hey, is there something that I can help you out with when we're at this networking thing tonight? Or, I'm going to be at that conference next week. Do you need help with anything? Or if you can't reach out to the organizer ahead of time, when you show up, you can always talk to them right there and say, hey, how can I be of help? Is there anything that you need? And there have been times when I've done that and they've said yes, and they hand me a box of ballpoint pens and they say, go put one of these at every seat. Sure, happy to do it, and all of a sudden it makes it feel a little bit different, and you feel like you're not just a bystander, right? You're not just a wallflower at a networking event. You're actually getting involved, and it feels so much more fun and more connected with the event. So that's a way to participate. And it could be something big, it could be something small. But as a stay-at-home mom, if you're looking at relaunching your career, you know that you've got a lot of skills. You know that you can handle a lot of things at the same time, used to multitasking. You get the mom going on all the time, right? And you've got the microwave beeping at you, and you've got the timer on the oven beeping at you, and the pesticide guys showing up, like all sorts of stuff. And so there's all sorts of things that can happen to you at the same time. You're used to dealing with a lot of things at the same time. So don't underestimate that skill, and get out there and connect and be of service. It can make a huge difference. And then also, when it comes to networking, you want to think about how you can dig your well before you need it. And that's actually a really great analogy for thinking about, okay, imagine you're in a desert and you need to have water to survive. But if you don't think about your water and maintaining that, you're going to find yourself in a situation where your well is totally dried up and you have no water available, and it is going to be a terrible situation. So you would never allow that to happen. If you were a desert dweller, you would know you do not wait until that well is almost done before you start digging another one. So it's the same thing when it comes to your network. You make sure that you continue to reach out and connect with people. So if you're somebody who's thinking about coming out of being at home and getting back into the workplace, don't wait until you're at that point that for sure you're ready to start interviewing. Start connecting with people today and make it a regular effort. And again, setting aside that time is going to make a huge difference, because then you can plan for it and you can use your time wisely. But you need to really think about it in advance, and don't wait until you're in that situation where you're super thirsty. It's going to be a mess. So those are some key things about effective networking. And then when you go to a networking event, I want to talk to you a little bit about what can you do when you show up there. So again, have a goal in mind before going. That's a big deal. So your goal could be, I want to meet 3 new people. I want to get 3 business cards from people. And by the way, ladies, I really recommend that you have your own business cards. So don't wait till you get a job somewhere and the company buys you business cards. Get your own business cards made. I love using vistaprint.com, and they have a great resource on there, really great templates and whatnot. You can easily design your own business card, but having your own business card gives you that feeling of, I have something to hand to that person, and then in turn I'm going to get their business card back, and so it feels a little bit more professional. And you know, if mom's looking for a cool Christmas idea for you, just tell her to buy you business cards or to get you.
As you can see, we're having some small technical difficulties. So if you'll just hold on there for a minute, this is Rixa. We'll get Jennifer back on the line. Jennifer just contacted me and said her computer crashed, but hold on, she's getting it back up and running, and she'll be back with us in just a minute. I hope some of these ideas will really help you. I know sometimes the whole networking idea can be a challenge for some people, and how to use that time effectively. And I love her ideas about planning ahead, because so often we go to events, even if you're going to a big dinner or a gala or something, and when you get there you're like, oh, I don't know who to talk to or what I'm going to do, or so we just kind of stand and listen. But instead, having this goal in mind, maybe it's to meet so many people or connect with so many, or hand out so many cards to people that you find are interesting. Also find another hint that works really well is to have a bunch of questions in your mind that, as you meet people that you're just being introduced to, that you have some questions that you ask. Maybe it's like, tell me a little bit about what you do and why you do it, or why are you involved in this organization, or have some specific questions in mind, so that when you're stuck in an elevator, as Jennifer was giving us that illustration, that you know you can be prepared to ask those questions. And I think if we kind of keep that in mind, and everyone likes to talk about themselves, so the best questions are those that you get the other person talking to you. And in doing those kinds of things, certainly it allows you to learn more about them, get a little closer, and it's after we make those personal connections with people, wherever that might be, that we can then use that connection to talk with them about careers and about ideas and options and what to do next. But you have to build that relationship first, and building that relationship first comes first with being able to share and talk and get to know them. So I think the more...
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now. Yes, I've been chatting away about networking. So
That's good. Ladies, I am so sorry. My computer just totally crashed, and I'm actually using my friend's computer right now. And of course, I don't have my slides on here, so I'm going to have to continue this conversation without the slides, which I think is terrible. So I'm wondering, Rixa, if you want, we can just we can do a couple different things. I can just talk and people can just look at a black screen, and then I can upload the PowerPoint slides later, and then people can, you know, look at that later. Or we can put on video. I can do video if you want, so at least you're not just looking at nothing. So you tell me what you want.
I mean, I don't mind just listening. I don't know how the other attendees feel, but often we're trying to do something else and listen at the same time. So I think what you've been talking about is fascinating. So
Okay.
let's finish the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, absolutely. And again, I'm so sorry, you guys. You know, that's technology for you, right? But us moms, we know how to roll with these crazy situations. So thank you, everybody, for your patience. And as I was just mentioning to Rixa, I will make these slides available. So we'll get this, you know, of course, it'll be recorded and whatnot. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have on my website, I'll put together a page for you that'll reference this information, and I'll put some key things on there. So for that, you're going to want to go to careercoachjen.com/WIB, which is Women in Business. So careercoachjen.com/WIB, and we'll make sure to get you guys the the content and whatnot. So. But continuing with with what I was talking about, when it comes to business cards, you want to make sure that you have your own business cards. And what I was jokingly saying is, what do we tell mom when she asks us for Christmas ideas? And we're like, oh, I don't know, I need, whatever, a gift card to Amazon or something. But have her get you business cards, or pay for those to be done, or buy you a really nice business card holder. Having those little kind of trinkets like that makes a huge difference. You feel just a little bit more professional. And as that stay-at-home mom, you're very well thinking about what child's boogers are on my cardigan, right? And you're thinking about I need to wash my hair, and because I haven't washed my hair in 4 days, so before I go to this networking event, so there's those kinds of things that are going to bring you into the reality of saying, okay, I'm relaunching my career. What am I doing to make sure that I'm connecting in a way that I feel good about how I'm connecting with other people? And it goes back to that personal brand piece that I was talking about before. How do you want to show up? What is going to be important to you? And so, it's just so funny. I'm just thinking about the fact how my laptop just totally died, and I was telling you about how I'm all energizing and excited, and and this is who I am, and here I have my computer die on me. It's like, oh, technology, what are you doing to me? This is not okay. And I can sit here and throw a fit out about it, or I can just roll with it, right? And that's my style of just going, okay, it's fine. It'll be totally okay. People, I'm still going to share great information with you. You just won't have little images to go along with it as you're listening right now. So just again, you think about how it is you want to show up. So when you're going to networking events, you want to make sure that you're thinking ahead of time and planning so that you can have those business cards with you. I do want to talk a little bit about clothing for a moment, because when you're a stay-at-home mom and you're looking at relaunching your professional career, often you might need to go and do some wardrobe revamping. And I have talked to a lot of moms over the years who talk about that fear of, what am I going to do? I don't have thousands of dollars to totally redo my wardrobe. Well, one cool thing is that nowadays wardrobes, professional wardrobes, do not have to be all sorts of just straight up suits. You can absolutely wear a pair of skinny jeans and couple it with some cute flats or heels and throw in a cardigan and a scarf, and you are good to go. And so have fun with it, ladies. That's one cool thing about being a woman, right? We get to wear things like jewelry of bright colors, and it's great and it's accepted. So you want to think about how it is that you want to be perceived. Now, you may still want to go and buy yourself a nice suit. I'm always a big proponent of every woman should have a nice suit where you put that suit on and you're just like, yeah, baby, check me out. I feel good. I look good. I walk with a little bit of swagger when I have this suit on, and so spend the money on a nice suit. And I'm not talking about spending $1,000, gals. I'm just talking about, maybe a couple $100. And here's another thing too. When you get that suit, please, please, please go to the tailor and have it adjusted for yourself. I saw this lady once who, her pants were so long on the back behind her heel that it was kind of ragged, and kind of, because she'd been walking and it had been dragging on the ground. And so she had on black slacks, and she was wearing a nice sweater top and had jewelry. it looked fine. It's just the back of the pants looked ragged, and it really diminished her professionalism. And so you want to make sure, just spend a few dollars and go get it tailored. I mean, who knows? Maybe you even have great tailoring skills yourself, and you could do it yourself. I'd say good on you if you do. But it's worth the $10, $15, $20 at the most to go and get your clothes tailored so that they fit you right. But here's the deal, ladies, is that when you do that for yourself, you feel better, and you feel more professional, and you feel more like you've got it going on, and you start to make that transition in your mind away from being mom mode, right, and to being more instead of what I call corporate Barbie, but you know, having more of that space in your mind of, okay, I am professional, and I am here to play in this game of professionalism or professional space. And so do that for yourself. Spend a little bit of money. You know, and again, whenever somebody's asking, hey, what do you want for your birthday? What do you want for Christmas? What do you want for anniversary present? Whatever, Mother's Day. Create a list for yourself and be very deliberate about what it is that you need in your wardrobe. And maybe styling clothes-wise is not a forte for you. Maybe you have a girlfriend who is great at that. You know, so maybe have her come over and say, I'll cook us a gourmet lunch. You come over and look at my wardrobe with me and help me put together some outfits. And another thing, too, for busy stay-at-home moms, when it comes to your clothes, a great technique that works so well is lay your clothes out on your bed and take photos of the outfits. Now, you could put the clothes on yourself, right? So you might say, okay, I want to wear this jacket top with this skirt, and I want to put this jewelry and these heels or whatever, and you could wear it and then have somebody take a picture of you. But then what you want to do is take those pictures, get them printed, and you can go to something like Walmart or Costco or whatever and print them out, and then keep those pictures in your dresser. So just put it like in, you know, in your lingerie drawer or something like that, and have it there so that you've got your photos ready to go. And the reason why that's an important mom hack is that you are not going to have a lot of time to think about it, and by having your outfits planned in advance is going to help you to more quickly transition and get those outfits pulled together in the moment when you need to get dressed and get out the door and go to that interview or go to that networking event. And if you haven't thought about it in advance, you're going to be standing there in front of your closet totally stressed out. You're already going to have enough stress because you're looking at doing business stuff. But just do these little things for yourself. It can really help make a difference, so that as you're relaunching your career, it doesn't feel like such a big ordeal to just take care of how you look and feel. And because how you look and feel, it just makes a difference. And by the way, I don't remember the study, but when it comes to wearing makeup, there was a study that determined that when women wear makeup, on an average, they earn 30% more money than other women who don't wear makeup. And I don't think it has anything to do with, oh, she's prettier now, so now we're going to pay her more money. I firmly believe it's more that you have taken the time to put yourself together and to professionally present yourself. And so that brings confidence with it, which means that you continue to progress professionally as well. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about how you're going to present yourself. Make sure that you're looking at your clothes, at your hair. You know, does your hair need to be up to be kind of brought into modern haircuts or whatnot? Especially, there were a lot of women who responded on this survey who were saying, I've been a stay-at-home mom for 20 years, 25 years. You know, if you've not really been looking at your style and making sure that you're keeping up with the times, then you're going to feel a little bit out of sync with what the business world is really looking for. And so, again, these things, it almost seems like superficial that I'm sharing these things with you, but really, ladies, it isn't. It's just the stuff that we need to do to make sure that we look good, so then you get past fidgeting with your clothes, you get past worrying about if your pants are dragging on the ground, right, or if your makeup's done right. You get past all of that, and you just go and show up and be professional, and it makes a huge difference. You're just going to feel more confident. So that's why I wanted to bring it up, and I want you to be realistic about that with yourself. And if you need help, get the help. Ask, your friends. I'm not great about clothes, and I actually have a couple of friends who are amazing stylists who I've gone shopping with. And if you have the money to do that, that's awesome, because they can actually in turn save you money in the long run, because they'll help you know what to buy, but they also help you shop your closet. They'll help you put together outfits that maybe you haven't seen before, but stylists are totally worth their weight in gold. So if you have a good stylist in your life, connect with them, but make sure that they're a stylist that understands corporate America or whatever type of environment it is that you're going to go work in. Not necessarily the stylists that are, you know, for mom clothes, right? You're looking for somebody who can help you to transition your wardrobe for work clothes. So it's an important piece, and you want to be prepared for what that's going to look like. And then later, once you do get a job, perhaps you have some more discretionary income to start adding items to your wardrobe, and you can look at rebuilding your wardrobe that way. But today, you know, you might need to spend a little bit of money. Hold on one second. I just need to get a sip of water. Thank you. So, so again, when it comes to relaunching a professional career, in-person networking is going to be critical. It's going to really help you to connect with people. And when I think about networking, two things are really important. Number one, you want to network with people that are in your industry that you want to be in, and then also perhaps the trade. So for example, I used an example earlier of a CPA. So your trade would be an accountant, so it would be networking with other CPAs, but let's say your industry is working in manufacturing, or your industry is higher education, or your industry is software technology or something like that. And so it's really wise to be involved in two different types of networking groups. One where you can connect with people who are doing the type of work that you're interested in doing, but then also connect with people in your industry. So you might learn about other types of jobs and opportunities in the industry, but you may not know about it because you were just talking to a bunch of CPAs. So I really think it's worthwhile to find two of those different types of groups in your area, and a good way to find them is simply just jump on Google. And as Rixa mentioned at the beginning of this, I serve on the board for BYU Management Society. It's a fantastic networking organization. We're all about growing moral and ethical leadership, so we have fantastic speakers that come and talk to us about being ethical leaders. And so, you know, here I am, I'm an HR consultant. I don't necessarily put myself in the category of being an ethics consultant, right? But I definitely have a lot of ethic issues come up, or morals issues, or integrity issues that come up with HR. And so, I'm very passionate about really growing and developing ethical leaders. That's why I'm involved. I also like it because there's service opportunities. We raise money for scholarships, and it's really, really fun and amazing to connect with the community that way. And it has led to amazing connections I've had with some really interesting business people that I probably otherwise wouldn't have that type of connection to them. So by getting involved in a group related to industry or trade is really going to help catapult you and give you the exposure that you want. And then what I want to do now is I want to talk a little bit about social media, because a lot of people ask about, well, what can I do to connect with people on social media? How can I do that for networking? Here's the deal. When it comes to social media, that social media is simply to back up what you're doing with in-person networking. So if you decide to keep all of your networking efforts on Facebook and LinkedIn and whatnot, it's not going to be enough, ladies. You really need to meet with people in person. LinkedIn is by far the most powerful when it comes to professional. So if you're thinking, well, here I am, a stay-at-home mom, you know, I have nothing to put on my LinkedIn profile, I would encourage you to stop and really think about, well, what else is it that you're doing that's outside of the home? You know, are you involved in the PTA? Are you helping out with running the soccer club for your son? Are you involved in your community, you know, politics or anything like that? So all of those things are very viable and really good, interesting things about you that you're doing. And so you have skills there, so you can absolutely add those to your LinkedIn profile, and you would also want to put those on your written resume as well, and you want to talk about what it is that you're doing in those. So you don't want to just say, oh, I serve on the board for the local PTA. Oh, okay, that's great, you do, but what are you doing, and is there an initiative or some kind of project that you've been responsible for? What have you helped to launch within your local PTA? And so really look for what's a good juicy information that's going to make a difference when people are looking at you as somebody to come work at the company, because in your mind you might think, I have nothing to offer because I'm just a stay-at-home mom. That's not it at all. You have a lot to offer. Now, if you're somebody who has not historically gotten out of the house and gone and done any kind of networking, if you're not really involved in the community, I would recommend that you find something to do and start making that an effort to go and connect. You could even look at organizing something like a local book club. And when I'm talking about a book club, I'm not talking about, you know, reading the latest you know, Twilight series, whatever, right, which is fun, but it's not necessarily something business related or professional development related. Instead, start a book club related to your industry. So maybe you connect with other stay-at-home moms who are also have a background in accounting and finance, and maybe once a month you get together and you start talking about you know, some new regulations or something that are coming through from the IRS, and start having more of an intellectual conversation based off of things related to your industry. So if you're the person who organizes that book club and pulls it all together, you can absolutely talk about how you're doing that. That could be very similar to somebody who's working at a company right now and is organizing a book club within their company. It's the same thing. So those are all great, pertinent, very, very relatable skills, and they're very relevant in today's workplace. So look for all those opportunities and write those things down for yourself, but also don't just say, okay, well, I organized this, I did this. You know, think about, well, what does that mean, and how does that make a difference in the organization that I'm a part of, or what does that do for that group that I helped to organize this? You want to think about what's the ripple effect, and then that way it'll help you to really start thinking about the value that you bring. You might remember at the very beginning of this call, I talked about how a stay-at-home mom's average salary is about $140,000, and that's because of everything that you're doing, from, you know, being the head chef, to the accountant, to the taxi driver, to the nurse, to the psychologist, to the coach, you know, all sorts of different things that you're doing in your role as a stay-at-home mom. There's a lot of things that you're doing that really are very relevant in the workplace. And so, but you need to stop and really think about what it is that how it is that you're showing up and how you're using those skills. And then that way, as you're really thinking about transitioning and getting and relaunching your professional career, you're going to recognize those things that you're naturally really good at. And so that'll help you as you're talking to people and networking with them to help you find interviews. The other thing I wanted to talk about is when it comes to social media, the best place to spend your time is LinkedIn, but then also Facebook and Twitter are really good too. So businesses, companies have Facebook pages. You can follow those Facebook pages and see what they're talking about. It's going to give you some good insight about the culture of the company. There are a lot of companies that are really trying to be very clear about how they're a mom-friendly company and for working moms. And so you can find out a lot of that information about the culture on Facebook. And then Twitter's a great place to follow different subject matter experts. You know, getting back to the CPA example, you know, maybe you've got different CPAs that are tweeting about things in the industry, or different things that are going on when it comes to IRS code or whatnot. So it's a great way to find information from subject matter experts. And then you can also find other people to start engaging in conversation. There's two people actually in my life that I just think the world of them, and both women I met through Twitter, and totally would never have met them otherwise. One of them's even in another state, and but we connected that way, and we've stayed in touch, and we've had a lot of great interactions with each other and have helped each other both professionally over the years. But if it wasn't for Twitter, it wouldn't have happened. And at one point, after I had met her about a year later, I was traveling to her state for business, and I made an effort to reach out to her in advance and set up a time for us to get together for dinner. And it was like meeting of the minds, of good old friends that we hadn't seen each other in forever, but we'd never even met in person, but we had started that relationship on Twitter. And so so it's pretty odd. Usually it goes the other way. You usually meet people in person and then you connect on social media. But don't discount what social media can do for you. I have a lot of friends, stay-at-home moms, that love Pinterest. They're so addicted to it. They just say how they'll just spend hours and hours and hours on that. Now, I get it. There's a lot of really cool projects and ideas for your kids' birthday parties, and great recipes, and Halloween costumes. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. I totally 100% get it. I just say to you, it goes back to, hey, how do you want to use your time? If we each only have 24 hours a day, how do you want to use your time? Is putzing around on Pinterest all afternoon, is that really the best use of your time? Or would it be better to designate a half an hour and jump on LinkedIn and start joining groups on LinkedIn related to the type of work that you want to do? That's going to really help give you a lot more exposure than being on Pinterest, unless of course you want to start your own Pinterest channel and then do all sorts of research on Pinterest. There's a lot of people who make money using that tool as well. But you just really want to think about, where are the people at that you want to connect with? For me, a lot of corporate America, those folks are definitely on LinkedIn, so that's where I spend a majority of my time. Sure, I have a Pinterest account. I think it's great. I pin recipes and different things, but you just want to think about, you have a limited amount of time, so how do you want to use that time? The last thing I want to talk about is setting expectations. So when you're getting ready to relaunch your career and going back to work, there's expectations from so many people in your life. There's expectations of your significant other, to your kids, to other family members, neighbors, all sorts of different people who come to rely on you being at home. And so you want to make sure you're really clear about how you want to spend your time, so that way you can be really careful about what time you're going to be dedicating towards relaunching your career versus being that person who's always been available before. It's actually pretty similar to somebody who loses their job and they find themselves at home full time. I remember once talking to this gentleman who, he said, I'm home and my wife thinks that I'm available to just at a drop of a hat run off to the grocery store and pick up something for her. And he said, I can't really do that. I'm trying to focus on finding jobs to interview. So he had to have a conversation with her about, okay, I can help you, but it needs to be after 4 p.m. Or I can help you, but it needs to be in the morning, helping you get the kids out the door. But by 9 o'clock, I need to have dedicated time to be focused on doing my job search. So the same thing for you. Just be really clear about what it is that you need, but be realistic. Ladies, we all have so many things that are demands on our time. So be realistic with yourself. And initially, maybe you can only set aside 1 hour a week. Maybe it's that Wednesday night from 9 to 10 p.m. and that's going to be your time to jump on LinkedIn and start participating in group conversations or something. If that's where you start, then great, but make sure you stick with it and then grow it from there. And be really clear about the expectations with your family members, because they're going to, it's going to be a big shift for them. It'll be a big shift for you too, but you need to be realistic about where you're coming from. And be honest with your heart and your soul, and how are you feeling about, there's all these changes and you're going to have mom guilt. Trust me, every woman that goes back to work has this mom guilt of, I'm not there for my kids, what am I doing? But if you've made the reasons to go back to work, you need to be specific and honest and true with what that is. And if it's just simply for yourself just to get out of the house and that's what your true north is, then good on you, lady. Go for it, right? If that's what you need, then you do it and you make that happen. And mom guilt's going to happen and you'll find ways to deal with that. And just keep close to your girlfriends, because they're going to be the ones who are going to help hold your hand. And when you're crying and you're freaking out because you've gone back to work and you're not there for your kids anymore as much as you used to be, they'll be able to help you and support you. But that's also another reason why I love networking and getting to know other professional people, because you're going to meet other working moms and you will be able to support each other and be able to have that friendship to help one another and know really what can you do to transition into this time where you're going to be a lot busier, you're going to have a lot more going on, and you're also going to have to cut certain things out of your schedule because you're not going to have that flexibility that you did as a stay-at-home mom previously. So you want to keep that in mind. But the other thing when it comes to expectations as well is you want to be careful about the whole salary thing. There's a lot of questions on the survey saying, well, how much money do I ask for because I haven't been working? At the end of the day, if you're going back to work, you need to know what money you need to make, not how much money is the company offering. And so be clear about where it is that you need to be, and then over time you can grow and develop. So if you've been home, you have to understand you have taken yourself out of the corporate game. You are not going to make as much money as somebody who's been working for 20 years in corporate America. So you want to make sure that you can use tools online like salary.com or payscale.com. Those are great websites you can go to get some comparisons. You can look, geographically based off of your location or across the United States and give you an idea of what the different positions are, but you just want to be just realistic and don't expect to make a ton of money right out of the gate. You'll get there, you'll grow, and you'll develop over time. But if your whole reason of going and getting a job outside of home is because you want to make a ton of money and you haven't been working in 20 years, I'm sorry, I just don't see that as being very realistic. And so you just want to make sure you level set your expectations. Good people to talk to about salary ranges are recruiters. They'll be able to give you some good ideas too about what that position is paying for somebody who's newly in it. You're probably going to have to consider yourself more like a recent college grad. As far as from a compensation standpoint, and even if you haven't been in college in 20 years because you've been home with kids, you're still going to look at that experience that you had at home and what you've been doing in the community will be helpful, but it's not going to immediately translate into a higher salary. So you just want to make sure that you're careful about that, because you don't want to set improper expectations with your family as far as what you think you're going to be bringing in right out of the gate. So the key things today I wanted to talk about is make sure you look at your brand, make sure you know who you are and what it is that you want to be and how it is you want to show up. Make sure you're really setting aside time to manage your career. Do the in-person networking, use your time wisely there, as well as in social media. Make sure you're connecting with people, and then have proper expectations set so that way, as you are getting out there, that you're not feeling like, oh, I'm not going to make any money. You just have to be realistic about it for the first few years at least, and then you'll get there. You'll continue to grow. But those are the key things I wanted to talk about that are going to really help you so that as you're getting ready to relaunch your professional career, you'll keep these things in mind that are going to help make a difference, so the transition is better for you emotionally, spiritually, but also physically, and how you're doing with this big transition. And it's a big one, and just be ready for that. Be ready for that time where it's going to hit you like a wave, and it's going to catch your breath, or take your breath away, I should say. And it's going to be hard, but you can do it so long as your reasons are good, and be really clear about what your reasons are. And it'll make a difference for you to help yourself get through the challenge of that transition. And always remember, you have women in your life who will love and support you, so reach out and ask for help. And sometimes walk around the block at midnight with your girlfriend is just the best thing in the world, because her kids are sleeping and your kids are sleeping, and you can just go and talk and just do your thing. And so you'll find your tribe. It'll come together over time. Rixa, I'd love to answer any questions. I know we've gone a little bit over because of my technology snafu, but is there anything that people have questions about that we want to talk about?
There have been a few, and I think these really fit in with your the talking that you were doing about being professional, because I personally think that how we present ourselves and coming across as professional often has nothing to do about whether we're working or not. And if we get it in our mindset that we can come across as totally professional in whatever we're doing, and to conduct any kind of volunteer work or anything we're doing in that way. A couple of questions though. We had two of them I thought that were very good. One was, what do you put on a business card if you're not working? And the second one is, what resume tips do you have for filling the gap? So they're kind of the same. What do you put if there's not a job there now?
Right, totally. So on the business card, so what you'll want to do is you'll put your first and last name, put your cell phone, put your email address, and your LinkedIn profile. So on LinkedIn, you can go in and you can customize the URL. If you don't customize it, it's going to be something like linkedin.com/ABC123457. It's just going to be really ugly. But you can go in and you can customize in your profile in the settings, and you can change it. So for example, mine is it's linkedin.com/in, so IN /career coach Jen. And so that way people can always find me. I did that too because my name Jennifer Anderson is so common. It made it easier for people to be able to find. And so, but for you, if your name's common, you might be able to say, you know, oh, my name is Jennifer Anderson, CPA or something. You can add a little bit of a indicator what type of work it is that you're looking for. But that way it customizes your URL. So when you go to put that on your business card and on your resume, it'll look so much more professional. And then on your business card, you can also make sure that you incorporate colors and any imagery that aligns with you. So if you're that CPA, you might use like, you know, find an image. And again, Vistaprint.com that I referred you to, they have really great templates, and so they'll have different pictures of things, like maybe there's a cute calculator on there, or maybe there's like a pile of money or something, I don't know, something finance related, a graph or a spreadsheet or whatever. So you can use that one of those images, and that will fill in that space on the business card so it doesn't feel super empty. Make sure that the font on the business card is not too small either, and you don't want to make it huge, but you don't want it to be too tiny. On the back side of the business card, you can always just print, you know, one solid color or something, but don't feel like you have to fill every little spot just with information. You don't have to have that. But again, the key things: your first and last name, your cell number, your email, and LinkedIn. And by the way, on your email, you know, you don't want to have something crazy like, you know, crazy Sally Sue loves cats at gmail.com. You know, don't do something like that. You instead get a professional email account, and you know, Gmail is always easy, but you can do Yahoo or Hotmail as well, and then that way it'll be much more professional. So so it's not this kind of silly whatever, you know, email address. And then on your resume, as far as filling the gaps, you just be really upfront and honest about what you've been doing with your time. So chronological resumes are kind of the typical norm, where you have your most current job and you work your way backwards. And if you're somebody who's been a stay-at-home mom, you are going to have a big gap there, right? There's going to show, you know, whatever, 7 years or 17 years or whatever of not working. So what you could do instead is you can do what's called a functional resume, where you put information about the different types of projects that you've worked on and the different skills that you have. So maybe using your CPA, you were the treasurer for the local PTA, and so you would indicate that, and so you could put the dates for that, or you could just in general talk about that's what you've done, and then at the bottom put the dates of when you graduated college, what your degree was, and the jobs that you have, and then it'll show, you know, and then you can just simply put on there stay-at-home mom or whatever it is that you want, to be very clear and upfront about it, because there's no sense in hiding it. It's totally going to come out in the interview, so you might as well just be clear about it. But instead of stressing about the dates, instead look for adding information to your resume that talks about the skills that you've been developing while you've been focusing on home. So that's a really critical, important piece. And then on your resume, make sure you put that customized LinkedIn URL on there as well, so that way people can link from your resume, they can go to your LinkedIn profile. And I just want to make a quick comment about your photo on LinkedIn. I have seen people use pictures where it's them with their kids sitting on their lap, or they've cropped themselves out of the picture. Maybe it was like a family picture or something, and they've just, you know, zeroed in on just themselves, and you can see, like, you know, the husband's shoulder next to your shoulder or something. Ladies, just get a nice picture done. Find a neighbor who's a good photographer and get a nice picture taken. Wear something nice, wear a color that looks great with your hair color and your skin color, and put a nice current photo on there, and so that way it looks professional and shows that you're really putting your best foot forward as well. Rixa, was there any other questions?
Well, there are a lot more, but they would mean another hour of talking, which is fascinating. We'll look at some of these if we can't. But I love the ideas of being professional in everything you do. Everyone has skills. Everyone has things that they're working on and doing right now and wherever they are. And if you look at that as a skill, that's what they want on a resume. Do you know how to set up organize and run big events. Well, how many of us haven't done that in a setting where you've taken over a big community event, or you've done something and you say, look, I know how to do the organization. I know how to set up agendas and get, you know how to get things done, and maybe that becomes your motto or
Right.
something. So
Yeah, I love
there's
it.
a lot of ways to look at what we can do, and then it's a matter of even talking with other people and saying, this is what I know I can do. How do I put this, and get some ideas? But no, there's some great suggestions here. I thought it was just fascinating. You know, we're all put in positions where life changes, and we either enter or re-enter or change direction. And all of these things that you've been talking about, these bullet points, I think are relevant to all of those. So thank you so much, Jennifer. We will send out a link to the recording. She will share her slides with us, so you can also have that with us, and any other links or ideas that we may have that will help you. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to Jennifer for doing this. We appreciate this and appreciate your participation. Watch for information on the next webinar, and thank you very much.
Thank you.